Chapter 4 Castle Oblivion. Riku arrived at the 10th underground floor of Castle Oblivion, where Vexen was waiting.
Riku, I presume? We don't need the witch's power. My research should hypothetically make it possible to transfer his memories and abilities into the puppet, if we proceed with my Operation Replica.
Who are you? Said Riku. Are you with Ansem?
You are half correct. Let us say that it's not the Ansem you know. He is Ansem, and he is not, which is to say, he's nobody at all.
Vexen stepped closer. He could sense a ferocious dark power emanating from Riku,
and that power will surpass even the wielder of the Keyblade, he thought.
Riku glared.
Nobody? Sorry, riddles aren't my thing. Try making some sense. He belongs neither to light nor to darkness, but walks in the twilight. Does that suffice?
Vexen chuckled.
That sounds rather like you at the moment, in fact. Between light and darkness. So am I. You see, we have much in common. Maybe.
Riku slowly raised Soul Eater.
What about it? Is that an invitation to join your club? Because you're right. There is still darkness in me. But it's my enemy. And so are you. You reek of it. Oh ho! So it's a fight you want. Very well. Fight me if you can.
That was exactly the method by which Vexen would obtain Riku's power. He was a scientist by nature, not well suited to combat, but there was no better option. All he had to do was draw out the greatest strength the boy could muster. And then, if he succeeded in mass-producing the replicas, the organization would have greater power than ever before. Far beyond even the emblem Heartless, Vexen deflected a strike from Soul Eater with his shield of ice.
Release your rage. Show me the strength of the darkness in your harbor.
Again and again, Riku swung his sword, and each time Vexen accumulated more of his memories and power as data.
Your skill with the power of darkness is still rather lacking, but for your sake, I hope you learn quickly.
Vexen charged and brought down his shield. Riku parried the blow with savage ease.
Wonderful, he cried. The darkness within you has such immense power, well worth the trouble of stoking your ire. Great, so this was a trick.
Riku chided himself, still holding Soul Eater ready.
Your fiery reaction provided just the data I needed. You have my thanks, Riku.
With a high, cruel laugh, Vexen vanished from the room. The only thing left to do now was to plant those memories in the puppet as a catalyst. It looks like Sora's memories have begun to awaken, Larxene giggled, peering at the image of Sora in the crystal ball. Axel looked up and smirked faintly at her.
Proceeding according to plan, huh? Let them make it as far as they can.
The fake memories were taking hold in Sora. Bit by bit, his past was being painted over so that he'd act as the organization wanted, and his true memories were fading. Fragments of memory were such delicately balanced things. The tiniest push could dislodge them. Naminé had the power to give that push and string the pieces together in different ways, although that was only because of the strength and scheming of the organization.
About time for the next step, wouldn't you say?
Wait, you had your fun on the first floor. Larxene flashed her most bewitching smile. This time, it's my turn.
Don't break him,
said Axel before he thought it through. Oh, do I detect a soft spot?
Sora's half of one of us. He's on our side.
But even if he said it, Axel wasn't entirely sure what he meant. It threw him off for a moment. Was he talking about the boy they meant to turn into their tool? Or about Sora's other half, his nobody, Roxas? You don't trust me? Larxene slumped in mock disappointment. I know when to let up. I'm not stupid enough to break my toys. Speaking of trust, Axel still had no idea who the traitor was.
Don't forget, he's the key. We'll need him if we're going to take over the organization.
A smile played at the corners of his mouth as he laid the trap. When he said we, he didn't mean himself and Larxene. She might interpret it as we, the people in the room, but that didn't mean he was lying. And sure enough, Larxene took the bait. Keep your mouth shut, would you? Keep it under your hood until at least the time is right, With that, she disappeared, off to meet Sora. It was a blithe admission of duplicity, and once the room was empty, Axel remarked,
"You would have been wise to do the same, Larxene."
Alone in the shadowy lab, Vexen gazed at the crystal ball displaying the 8th underground floor where 2 identical boys faced each other. Riku and the replica, the fruit of Vexen's painstaking research. He had several others in production, and he was trying out various ways of inputting the physical data that would allow the puppet to copy the appearance and movements of the original. To be sure, everything was still in the experimental stage, but from what he could see of the replica and the crystal ball, this trial was going quite well. Riku flung back the replica.
"Hey, fake me. Thought I heard you'd say I'd never win against you."
He closed in and held the point of Soul Eater to the replica's throat.
Don't forget, I'm still new. I'll get stronger and stronger. It won't be long before I'm stronger than you,"
the replica boasted.
"So the next time we fight, you're finished."
Yes, the replica would grow in strength, and to that end, it needed experience.
"I must find it stronger opponents to face,"
Vexen thought, smiling to himself as he observed. Sora had defeated Larxene. She insisted that she'd meant to let him win, but she had obviously fled in disgrace. Still, Larxene had successfully carried the plan to the next step. Sora's memories of Kairi, the Princess of Heart, were getting confused with false memories of Naminé, the witch. She was coming to believe that a girl he'd never met was someone very dear to him. The technique of the Keyblade's hero reminded him of Roxas. Axel had more and more reasons to ponder the connection between a nobody and their somebody. At the moment, though, he was with Vexen and his puppet, the replica. Vexen's puppet didn't look anything like what Axel had seen when he had gone underground to investigate. Now it had taken on the form of a silver-haired boy, of Riku. He'd heard the replica would gain power from Riku's memories, but no one other than Vexen would have come up with such an elaborate instrument.
"How could you let yourself be humbled by someone of such meager significance?" Vexen remarked. "You shame the organization."
Larxene ignored his gibe.
"How can we help you, Vexen?" said Axel. "It's not often we see you topside."
The scientist was supposed to be in charge of the operations down below. If there was any reason for him to surface, it was likely to put his creation to some kind of test. And at the moment, Axel thought he wouldn't mind seeing this puppet in action for himself.
"I came to lend you a hand," Vexen replied. "You obviously believe this Sora has much potential, but I remain unconvinced he is truly worth such coddling. An experiment, I think, would show if he is really of any value to us."
Well, here we go again," Larxene sniffed. "Just an excuse for you to carry out your little experiments."
"I'm a scientist. Experiments are what I do, yes."
As Larxene and Vexen sniped at each other, the replica watched Sora and his friends in the crystal ball.
"Whatever, you can do what you want,"
Axel told Vexen with a glance at the replica.
"But you know, I get the feeling that testing Sora is just a way for you to test your valet." "Valet?" Vexen fumed. "He's the product of pure research."
"He's a toy, that's what he is," Larxene said curtly before he could launch into a long-winded scientific rebuttal.
You could stand to keep your mouth shut about things you don't understand," Vexen snapped. "Anyway, since you came all the way up here, you're gonna want this."
Axel tossed a card to Vexen.
"A humble gift for my elder. I hope you use it to put on a good show for us." "Oh, how very helpful of you. Well then, I'll be using that."
Vexen beckoned to the replica, offering the card.
"Come along." "It's just a card," the replica said flatly. "What good is that?" "That card holds the memories of Sora and Riku's home,"
Axel explained, studying the replica's reaction. "With that, and a little help from Naminé, you'll have all the real Riku's memories. We can even get her to make you forget that you're nothing but a fake." Larxene was having a terribly good time. "In other words, we'll remake your heart so you can be just the same as the real Riku, okay?"
"You want to remake my heart? The real Riku is a wimp who's afraid of the dark, afraid of himself," the replica cried. "What do I want with the heart of a loser like that?"
Some of Riku's memories must have already been copied into a replica. If he had more, he should continue to gain power. "Any objections, Vexen? You do want to use him to test Sora, don't you? Vexen crossed his arms, considering Larxine's proposal for the briefest moment.
It must be done. How can you? Vexen, you're betraying me?
The replica moved to face him in protest.
I told you I would make good use of you, didn't I?
Vexen replied coldly. Relax, kiddo, said Larxine. It probably won't even hurt that much.
I'll hurt you!
The replica charged at Larxine, sword raised. She flung him away. Stupid little toy. You think you could hurt me? But hey, look on the bright side. Naminé will erase the memory of me knocking you flat, along with everything else in your head. Instead, she'll implant the loveliest little memories you could ever hope for. Who cares if they're all lies? No big deal. She loomed over the replica as he tried to get up.
No, don't!
But Larxine's next attack flung him into the wall and knocked him unconscious.
All right, Naminé, you're up,
Axel called to the girl sitting silently in the corner of the room. Okay, she murmured.
It is possible to rearrange memories without the aid of a witch.
Vexen hoisted up the replica. Oh, I don't know about that, said Larxine. Rearranging memories is one thing, but we need to rewrite them, too. She's the only one who can handle that part. Isn't that right, Naminé? The girl made a tiny nod. And once you rewrite their memories, Sora and that puppet will both adore you, Larxine added. Isn't that exciting? Naminé had no reply. The replica's memories were being rewritten, just like Sora's. Watching the puppet asleep in the flower bud pod, Axel murmured to the girl beside him.
That's an incredible power you have, Naminé.
But the only thing I can really do is string together bits of memory in different ways, she said. I can't put in pieces that were never there to start with.
Doesn't that mean that as long as you got the data, you can pull it off?
Axel wondered. The organization already had the technology to convert memories to data. But I need something to hold it, said Naminé, like a container.
A container, huh?
So in this case, Axel thought, the replica was the container. And besides, she went on, nobody's like you are at the mercy of their memories. It might awaken something similar in the replica.
What do you mean?
A heart. Naminé began to say something more, but at that moment, Vexen burst into the room.
Have you not finished rewriting those memories yet?
She turned. No, I'm not done. If his memory helix collapses, the replica himself will probably break down too. At the thought, her gaze dropped sadly.
Well, according to Larxine, Sora is about to arrive at the next floor.
Vexen typed something into the pod's keyboard, and its door swung slowly open. The replica blinked. Naminé watched the replica battle Sora in the crystal ball.
You have my sympathies, Axel said quietly. From the heart.
His words were meant for the replica, not for her. She peered curiously at Axel. Something like determination had awakened in her eyes.
Is she up to something?
Axel returned her gaze.
Don't waste your time, he warned. We nobodies can ever be somebodies.
She looked down at the sketchbook in her arms. Marluxia was right to manipulate the Hero of Light, but the underground team weren't wrong either, bringing out the replica in response. But since he wasn't taking her side, Axel could use both the replica and the Keyblade wielder. But it would be impossible to stay on top in this castle without Naminé. And she had said some interesting things during their earlier conversation near the sleeping replica.
Say, Naminé, isn't there something else you can do?
When she raised her head, there was fear in her eyes.
Hey, a fake? Riku?
After a second loss to Sora, the replica found Axel in front of him. He had no memories of his own anymore. He believed he was Riku.
What do you want? He demanded.
There was sweat on the replica's forehead, Axel noticed. Did puppets sweat?
That hero was pretty strong, huh?
Axel smirked down at him, patting him on the shoulder.
Even Naminé admits she likes strong guys, you know.
The replica lowered his head and bit his lip, just like a human boy with a heart would.
Well,
said Axel,
you'd like to get stronger, wouldn't you, Riku?
How? The question was accompanied by a resentful glare. Axel threw a single card to him. It struck the replica in the chest and fluttered to the floor. That card had no link to anyone's memories, but was a room key in Castle Oblivion. Usually holding a card up to the door in the castle would open up a new world, but this simply linked to whatever room Sora was in. Axel had made his choice. Rather than let Vexen pull the strings, Axel was going to get a pawn of his own with the replica.
If you use that card, you'll be able to get some more power.
Why are you helping me? The replica eyed the card on the floor.
Because I wouldn't mind seeing the hero taken down myself.
This was such a bald-faced lie that even a puppet probably wouldn't be fooled. Still, it would have the intended effect. With the fake memories from Riku implanted in him, the replica wanted power at any cost. That was the entire meaning of his life now.
So, Riku, what are you waiting for?
Axel prompted. As if he'd finally made up his mind, the replica picked up the card. Topside, the situation after Larxine's loss had been reversed. This time, it was her turn to take Vexen to task. Axel wasn't ignoring them, but he was also keeping an eye on Naminé as she cowered in a corner. How much did she know about that puppet? So, what's going on, Vexen? Larxine scolded. I thought Riku was under your control. So, where is he? The replica had gone missing after a battle with Sora, or so they thought. In fact, after his failure, he had simply taken Axel's bait and run off. Vexen and Larxine, however, had no way of knowing that.
He's hiding somewhere to lure Sora deeper into the castle, right?
Axel offered.
I suppose we should just leave it at that.
Larxine clapped her hands once in mock realization. I'm so sorry. It's just hard to tell whether your research is supposed to be of any use whatsoever.
Silence!
Vexen trembled with rage. Aw, you hate being told the truth, don't you? Simple-minded for a scientist.
As if you're one to talk.
Vexen summoned his shield. But the second after it materialized in his hand, Marluxia appeared between the squabbling pair after his lengthy absence.
Enough.
Larxine and Vexen both stopped short.
Vexen, the fact is your project was a failure,
Marluxia declared with a hint of disgust.
You had better not disappoint us again.
From what they had seen of the replica, Vexen's stratagem, or perhaps his scheme, could be termed a success. But as far as Marluxia was concerned, they had no need for a puppet that acted outside of the organization's will.
Disappoint you? You go too far. In this organization, you are number 11, while I am number 4, and I will not be ordered around by the likes of you.
Vexen readied his shield. Marluxia answered with icy disdain.
This castle and Naminé have been entrusted to me. Defying me will be seen as treason against the organization.
And traitors are eliminated. That's what the rules say. Larxine chirped from beside him. She wasn't wrong. Under their laws, a member who defied the organization would not be suffered to live.
I tell you, the project failed,
said Marluxia.
And I must report that failure to our leader. What? No, wait! Don't tell him that!
Vexen pleaded, nearly falling to his knees. Larxine's mouth twisted into a nasty grin at his desperation, though Vexen probably couldn't see it with his head lowered.
Perhaps we can work something out,
Marluxia said softly. Then Vexen looked up.
How? Eliminate Sora yourself.
What? Vexen blurted. None of his predictions could have prepared him for such an order. Even Larxine seemed startled.
Is there a problem?
Marluxia asked with a graceful smile.
No, it's just, why? Won't that cause a problem? Never you mind.
As Vexen floundered, Marluxia curtly closed the topic. An uncomfortable silence settled over them until Larxine broke it. Are you for real? Marluxia made no reply. As if Larxine's question had been the last push he needed, Vexen vanished from the room.
You challenge Vexen like that, and he'll seriously try to eliminate Sora,
Axel commented. But he suspected the true intent of the order was to eliminate Vexen, not Sora. Marluxia wasn't a complete idiot, after all.
That would be an unfortunate denouement.
Marluxia approached the corner where Naminé sat in a trembling huddle. Her shoulders jumped as she looked at him.
What will you do? Before long, your hero will be wiped from existence. But I believe there is a certain promise that he made you. Isn't that right, Naminé?
Yes. she replied in her thin, tiny voice. The Keyblade finally brought Vexen to his knees. We did it! Sora struck a victorious pose.
So, you can fight after all,
Vexen muttered, dragging himself upright.
I might have expected. You're not one to die very easily.
Even though his face was contorted in pain, his voice brimmed with overconfidence. As if we'd ever lose to you, Donald shouted from behind Sora.
I wouldn't be so sure. Did you even notice? As we fought, I was delving deep into your memories. And here, look what I found. A card crafted from all the memories locked in the other side of your heart.
Vexen tossed the card in Sora's direction.
If you really want to fight me, step into the world that you create with this.
What's he talking about? As Larxene observed the scene in the crystal ball, she looked up at Marluxia.
That would be Twilight Town,
Marluxia murmured, naming the location on the card in Sora's hand. Axel's eyebrows lifted slightly. What is he up to, I wonder? Larxene mused.
He probably figures he'll have an advantage fighting in a world he knows better.
Axel crossed his arms. Oh dear, doesn't it look like Vexen's gone and lost his cool? So what now, Axel? I thought Sora wasn't supposed to find out about the other side.
But which side is really the other?
Axel thought. Was it the other side for Roxas, a nobody? Or for Sora? And what was Vexen trying to do? Was it something to do with his experiments? What could he be trying to accomplish by meddling with Sora's memories? And how could Twilight Town be in Sora's memories at all?
Well, as long as no one confronts him, we should be able to get away with it,
said Axel, trying to hide his unease.
But let's have Naminé deal with it.
Marluxia spoke over him.
And you go too, Axel. I trust you know what needs to be done.
He did. There was no doubt in his mind. But he flashed a cocky grin at Marluxia anyway.
Haven't a clue, really. Maybe you could spell it out for me. You must eliminate the traitor,
Marluxia replied with a faint smile, as if they were making small talk.
No taking that back later.
Without any further discussion, Axel turned and walked out of the room rather than using the dark portals. He strode through the corridors to the floor where Sora and his friends were now.
Eliminate the traitor, huh?
This made it clear who the real traitors were. For the organization, at least. Marluxia and Larxene were scheming to betray the whole group. Vexen was just an idiot with a laboratory, and so as long as his own position was respected, he had far more interest in science than politics. That left the rest of the underground team, but it was too soon to be sure about them. Axel wasn't about to ponder the morality of purging Vexen. It was just another task to maintain his good standing with Marluxia and Larxene. He might as well think of it as self-preservation. But why would Vexen conjure Twilight Town of all places? Thanks to that genius idea, now even the replica would be heading there. And if by some chance Sora found out about Roxas, what would happen then? How would a human react upon learning about his own nobody? If Sora were to disappear, then the same might happen to Roxas. He had to keep that from happening at least. So, Axel stepped into the Twilight Town of Castle Oblivion's 11th floor, where Sora waited. This place was allegedly extracted from Sora's memories, but it was every inch the town Axel knew. From the brick buildings to the color of the cobblestones, not a single detail was out of place.
Sheesh, this castle sure is something,
he said under his breath, marveling anew at the power of these white rooms and their memory-based transformations into other worlds. He headed into the forest that led to the haunted mansion. The replica was nowhere to be seen, but that didn't mean he wasn't here. Sora and his friends, though, should be this way. He could hear Vexen shouting from beyond the trees. Keeping himself hidden in the shadows, he spied on their conversation. Regardless of the outcome, it would be easier to complete his task afterward.
Sora, I've got a question for you,
Vexen was saying.
Your memories of Naminé, or your feeling about this place. Which of the two is more real to you, I wonder?
Naminé, of course, Sora retorted. Whatever it is that I'm feeling here, I bet it's just another one of your mean little tricks. What did that mean? What kind of feeling did Sora have about this world? Was it familiar to him? Something was happening to the connection between Sora's memories and Roxas's, or had they always been so deeply intertwined?
Memory can be a cruel thing. In its silence, we forget, but in its obsession, it binds our hearts.
Vexen's excessive confidence had not diminished, even as he faced the boy with the Keyblade.
I told you, this place was created solely from another side of your memory. It's on the other side of your heart that the memory of this place exists. Your heart remembers.
Was there something Vexen knew, Axel wondered, about the connection between Sora and Roxas, and the heart? You're wrong! I don't know this place! Sora lashed out with the Keyblade.
If you remain bound by the chain of memories and refuse to believe what is truly in your own heart, then you may as well throw it away. You are no Keyblade master, only a puppet controlled by memory. Exactly like my Riku, your existence is worth nothing.
He was no different from the replica, a doll powerless against his own memories. Your Riku? Worth nothing? Sora scowled in confusion. That's enough! You're the one who's changed Riku. I'm not gonna listen to you.
Oh, you think I changed Riku?
Vexen cackled. What's so funny?
Well, perhaps you could say I changed him. Still, the fact is, you feel this place is familiar to you, and so you cannot trust your own feelings. Isn't that right?
Vexen sounded perfectly calm, as if to highlight Sora's angry shouts.
He really needs to shut his mouth, Axel thought, silently preparing for the right moment.
Every word you've said is a lie! Sora lunged with the Keyblade, but Vexen's shield deflected the blow and flung Sora back.
You're no hero, only a puppet who's thrown away a hero's heart.
I'd never throw away my heart. I'm gonna take you down and save Riku and Namine. That's what's in my heart.
But what is a heart? You certainly are a foolish puppet. Now die!
Vexen hurled chunks of ice at Sora. Fire! Donald was ready with a spell to melt the barrage. Better not forget about us! It was 3 against 1, so Vexen did have a distinct disadvantage. If that trio managed to destroy him, it would save Axel a bit of trouble. But then another figure stepped in front of him. The replica. Sora and Vexen didn't know the other boy was here. The replica, meanwhile, hadn't noticed Axel hiding in the shadows of the forest.
Well, look who's here,
said Axel.
Hey there, Riku.
The replica whirled around.
What's going on? You said I'd get stronger if I came here.
Did I now? Axel gave him a meaningful smirk, folding his arms.
Did you trick me?
Not exactly. Watch the show, Riku. He motioned toward the battle. In the course of their brief conversation, Sora had begun fighting in earnest. With the support of his friends, too, he was dealing Vexen serious damage.
The kid's no slouch, huh?
The replica made no reply to Axel's undisguised admiration, and only watched Sora's ferocity in silence. The Keyblade tore through the air and into Vexen.
Ugh, to think you have such strength, even at the mercy of your memory,
Vexen gasped out, staggering.
Your existence is a hazard indeed.
None of that matters. Just make Riku go back. Sora had the Keyblade pointed at his throat.
Just make him go back? You really have no idea what you're saying. The Riku you speak of has but one fate, to sink into the darkness, and you, Sora, will share that same fate. If you continue to seek Namine, the shackles will tighten. You will lose your heart, and become no more than Marluxia's pawn.
Marluxia? What's Namine got to do with... If the replica heard about the plan, if Sora heard...
Heh, didn't account for this.
Axel laughed, placing a hand on the replica's shoulder.
What do you mean?
Asked the replica, but Axel just smirked and yanked his shoulder hard. It was enough force to knock him flat on his behind, but he didn't hit the ground, at least not here. Axel had shoved him into a dark portal to Castle Oblivion's paths between. Inside the castle, he had the ability to transport others as well as himself. The replica was getting in the way after all. Then Axel revealed himself, stepping out from the shadows and hurling his chakrams at Vexen. There wasn't much power in the attack, but a blow to the vitals would finish him off.
Gah!
Vexen went sprawling in the dirt.
Yo, Sora, did I catch you at a bad time?
Axel turned away to pin Vexen down with the chakram.
Ugh, Axel, why? I came to stop you from talking too much. By eliminating your existence, that is.
Vexen squirmed on the ground, desperately pleading to Axel.
No, don't! We're nobodies. We have no one to be. We just are. But now you don't have to be at all. No more existence, no more memories. You're off the hook.
Axel stretched out his hand, wreathed in flame. After the battle with Sora, Vexen had hardly any strength left. Destroying him would be almost too easy.
Don't! No, please, don't! I don't want to!
Bye now. Axel's fire engulfed him. Vexen let out a howl of anguish, though it was only a moment before flames consumed him and he vanished entirely. Nobodies, it seemed, left nothing behind when they were snuffed out.
What are you? What are you people?
Sora demanded.
Not sure. I wonder about that myself.
With that, Axel disappeared himself. Now there was no turning back. Nice work, Axel. I say good riddance to that blabbermouth. Larxene greeted him. He ignored her and approached the castle's boss.
Marluxia, you sent Vexen to test Sora's strength, didn't you?
Marluxia declined to answer. Not just Sora's, yours too. Larxene leaned up against Axel, acting much too familiar. We weren't sure if you actually had it in you to take out a fellow member. Well, I guess you did. It's time to join up. With the three of us, taking over the organization will be a cinch.
Seriously? You think that little of the organization and me?
Axel shrugged.
So, that's where Sora comes in, huh?
Of course! He wants to see Naminé, so why don't we just let him have what he wants? A cruel smile as he ambled over to the corner. Naminé had been listening and looked up at him, clutching her sketchbook tightly.
Rejoice, Naminé,
said Marluxia.
Soon you'll meet the hero you've been longing for.
I'm glad. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Larxene finally disentangled herself from Axel and gave Naminé a cheerful bit of advice. But we're warning you, you'd better not do anything to betray Sora's feelings. Understand, little one? I understand.
All you need to do is merge the layers of Sora's memories and bring his heart closer to you,
said Marluxia. Then he flicked a glance at Larxene, and the two of them disappeared from the room.
Naminé,
Axel said softly. She didn't stir.